What's up, my friend? Welcome back to another video. And today I just wanted to do a quick comparison between the full version of Kontakt and the free Kontakt player. So in case you're unaware, Kontakt is a sampler built by Native Instruments, and it allows third-party developers, so developers who are not Native Instruments basically, to develop sample libraries, which are basically softwares holding recorded sounds, right? So it allows those libraries to be hosted inside the Kontakt software, and then it allows us as the composers and consumers to play out those sounds and then use those sounds for our virtual orchestrations, our mockups, our productions, whatever. And so there's two versions of Kontakt that are typically advertised, the paid version and the free version. So today we'll kind of go over the differences, and then I'll share with you which one I'm personally using and why, okay? So in case you're interested in sample libraries in general though, maybe you're kind of fiddling with the orchestral realm and you're interested in seeing what sample libraries I personally recommend, then I want to give you my sample library buyer's guide absolutely free. And it goes over, again, my personal recommendations, my favorites that I use on a day-to-day basis, and I've categorized it into, the different orchestral sections. So like strings, winds, brass, percussion. I've also included some other ones like piano libraries, some jazz focused libraries, ethnic libraries, things like that. I've also listed the prices, given you utility recommendations. It's all included in this guide and it's totally free. So if you want to check it out, you can download it using the first link in the description box below, and it's my gift to you for watching this video today. All right, so let's kind of dive in. On the Kontakt page, what you see is, first of all, the feature comparison. The main thing you want to know here is that the full version of Kontakt allows you to kind of create and sample your own instruments within the player, and it allows you to do a bunch of tweaks and do some advanced stuff that you might not be able to do in the Kontakt player. The way I see the Kontakt player is it's actually just the host or the shell for hosting these external libraries that actually pay to have their libraries Kontakt player compatible. So you don't get to do as much building or instrument construction in Kontakt player versus the full version of Kontakt, where you get all of that flexibility if you want to create your own instruments from scratch. That's kind of one of the main things I think that separates these two versions. But let's kind of take a look here at the comparison chart. So the price, obviously, for the free Kontakt player, it's free and you don't need to pay anything. Whereas for the full version of Kontakt, if you want to just buy Kontakt outright, then it's $259 Canadian. If you want to upgrade from a previous version, then you do pay an upgrade price. And then for the free Kontakt player, you get a 50 instruments collection that comes out to about 500 megabytes. Whereas if you get the full version of Kontakt, then it comes with over 1,000 instruments with over 55 gigabytes of sounds. And these range from, pop, rock, all the way to sound design and orchestral and all of that stuff. It's very well rounded, and you can really get started and creating your own tracks with some good quality sounds just using the Native Instruments factory library. And then, these are some other smaller details here that you might want to look into, but those are some of the bigger differences there. So again, with the full version of Kontakt, you get more sounds that are included, and you get that flexibility of creating your own instruments inside the software. But for me, one of the biggest differences, and the thing that impacts me the most as an orchestral producer, is that the full version of Kontakt, because it's required to be paid, so you have to pay as the composer to get that full version, Native Instruments now has that money, right? Whereas for the free version of Kontakt, the cost has to fall on something or someone, right? And Native Instruments has put this cost on the developer. So because we as the composers and consumers, we get to download the free Kontakt player, Native Instruments wants someone to pay for something, right? So they actually charge the sample library developers, the third-party developers, instead of the consumer. They charge the developers to create libraries that are compatible with the Kontakt player library. So this means if I'm an instrument maker, right, if I want to sell my Kontakt instruments to the wider public, and if I want to make it very affordable, and if I want to make it basically a no-brainer for someone who has the free Kontakt player, then I'm going to have to pay Native Instruments a hefty fee to make my library player compatible for the free Kontakt player. Whereas if I pay for the full version of Kontakt as the consumer, then Native Instruments does not charge the third-party developer anything to develop their instrument for Kontakt, for the full version of Kontakt. I think that's how that works. But let me quickly show you here in my DAW, right? So I'm in Logic. You can see all of these libraries here on the left. These are Kontakt player compatible libraries. So all of these libraries, or all of these developers, companies, have paid Native Instruments a sum of money to make their libraries show up here on the left, and they also work in the free Kontakt player. So this is the full version of Kontakt. So I can host all of these Kontakt player libraries in the full version of Kontakt, but I can also host these smaller niche libraries developed by companies that maybe don't want to pay Native Instruments that big amount. So there's a bit of a trade-off there, right? We still get to access these libraries in Kontakt, but because they're not Kontakt player friendly, they don't show up here on the left nice and bold and with all these colors and everything like that. So as the user, we have to go into Files, the Files tab, and then access the libraries from here instead. So most of these libraries here are not Kontakt player friendly. They are just available for the full version of Kontakt because we as the consumers have already paid for the full version of Kontakt. So here, as an example, Performance Samples, which is a great company, they developed this library called Vista, which is a string library. Very passionate, romantic legato lines. So this library is only made for the free version of, for the full version of Kontakt. It is not available for the free Kontakt player. But as the composer, because I've already paid for Kontakt, I can just access this library. So I can drag in the patch, I can use it as normal, I can get my lines out and everything like that. So paying for the full version of Kontakt gives you the flexibility of having all of these Kontakt libraries at your disposal. And you don't have to worry about which libraries are Kontakt player friendly, only for the free version of Kontakt, or the libraries that need you to upgrade to the full version of Kontakt, right? When you have the Kontakt player library, you get the best of both worlds. And that's mainly what we're paying for as orchestral composers and producers. Because in our niche of orchestration, most orchestral sample libraries are still being developed for the Kontakt software, whether that's for the Kontakt player or the full version of Kontakt. It's just the industry standard that most people are familiar with. Now, some developers have created their own softwares and their own players to go away from the Native Instruments Kontakt ecosystem, including like Orchestral Tools, they have their Sign player, Spitfire Audio has their own Spitfire player, Cinesamples is now using their Musio player. VSL has their player, and East West has their Opus player or their Play player. All of these different options you have available to you, but Kontakt is still kind of the most recognizable, I would say, software when it comes to samples. So just so you know, though, that's kind of the difference. So if you're really on the fence between choosing, is the free Kontakt player better or should I upgrade to the full version, I would encourage you to upgrade to the full version if you want access to those niche libraries that maybe you don't get with the free Kontakt player. And if you have the money to spend, if you can afford to spend that extra bit, just to give you that flexibility of being able to access all of these Kontakt libraries, then I think it's a no-brainer. Whereas if you're just starting out, maybe you don't have as much of a budget, then maybe the free Kontakt player is a better choice because you can purchase libraries that are available for the free Kontakt player and you don't have to pay Native Instruments anything, So kind of a balancing act there, you kind of have to decide, but I think eventually upgrading to the full version of Kontakt is a no-brainer. It's just a one-time fee, and there are instances where if you want to continue upgrading Kontakt, eventually you do have to pay a small upgrade fee, which I think is kind of unnecessary, but I guess Native Instruments has to make an income somehow, right? So for me, it's a no-brainer to use the full version, but I just wanted to share those differences with you today. So hopefully that kind of helps. And again, if you're interested in sample libraries as a whole, you're kind of interested in my personal choices and favorites, then again, I want to give you my sample library buyer's guide. It's 100% free and it's categorized by all the different sections. So it's very clearly laid out. I've also included prices and how you would use those libraries. So it's very comprehensive. And again, you can treat it as a buyer's guide. So maybe you're on the market for a sample library, you're curious about my thoughts on it, you can check it out in the guide and see if it's there and what I have to say about it. If you want to click the first thing in the box below, it'll take you straight there where you can grab it as my thank you for checking out this video today. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care, make some great music, and see you soon. Bye-bye.